Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 159. Hi, I'm Chris. Thank you for joining us today.
And I'm Jill. Chris and I are your hosts for this podcast and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
In case you're wondering, we decided to name our community Becoming Ellie because Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match. Jill and I thought, hey, we want to be like Ellie.
Yes, we do. You can find out more about the Becoming Ellie community and this podcast at our website, becomingellie.com. And Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I. Be sure to sign up for our newsletter while you're there. That way you'll know about new episodes and anything else that's new with us.
Hey, Jill, we have a shout out today for Suzanne. She bought us a coffee from our website and said, I've recently started a new chapter in my career and I've been loving your podcast and the inspiring guests you bring on. I've even recommended it to my clients.
Thank you, Suzanne. We really appreciate your generosity. We haven't talked about giving a cup of coffee recently, but if you go to the website, you'll see Buy Us a Coffee. It's an easy way to help support the podcast.
Yes, and we really do appreciate Suzanne supporting us. Recommending our podcast to people is also a super easy way to support us.
And speaking of inspiring guests, today we're talking with Alicia Jones. She's an amazing source of information about fitness and staying fit as we age. Let's go to the podcast.
Alicia Jones helps transform the health and lives of women over 40 through her fitness and weight loss strategies. She has a BA in Kinesiology and many certifications, including National Coach of Canada, NCCP, Advanced Sports Nutrition, Certified Group Fitness Instructor, Personal Training Specialist, Canfit-pro.
Alicia has appeared on various health and wellness television programs and produced and hosted Health Matters and The View, Health and Wellness on Rogers TV.
Welcome, Alicia. We're so happy that you could join us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, we're really looking forward to talking with you. Let's jump right in. What's the difference about exercising when you're 40 or 50 compared to when you were 30?
Well, there are a lot of differences. One is recovery rates. So if you are already physically active, you know that maybe in your 20s and 30s, you could go out and do a heavy, hard run or workout in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You could pretty much do it all the time. And even if you were starting to feel a little bit overtrained and you needed a day off, you could do that, recover in a day, and you're back at it. Whereas once you've entered your 40s, your 50s and beyond, recovery rates slow down. And so with those recovery rates slowing down, you may do a hard workout and the next day you don't recover quite as well. You need a few more days of recovery time in between, or you need to be doing alternative exercises that are going to help enhance recovery rates. And that also shifts for women as well, because as estrogen levels drop, that's really helping repair, reduce inflammation in the body, it helps with the support of the cartilage, and it also helps with recovery of muscle. And so what ends up happening is as our estrogen levels drop, we no longer have that protective mechanism. And so at the same time, our recovery rates slow down and, things feel achy sometimes afterwards. So that's one of the big changes that happens.
Do you have specific exercises to improve your recovery rate?
Yes. So one of the main things you want to make sure you incorporate are both rehabilitation exercises, which, I think a lot of times people bypass them. They think, I only need to do that when I've injured myself. But if you can get ahead of it and do it before you've injured yourself, one, you really enhance the mobility of your joints. So for example, especially in the shoulders, a lot of shoulder injuries start to occur with age. Some of that has to do with blood flow. So our blood flow levels shift, and we were talking about how the joints as well, they don't have as much cartilage or repair within them. And so if we can do a lot of stabilization exercises for the shoulder, instead of working overhead and really getting into the joint. It's called the AC joint, the acromioclavicular joint here. That joint, after repetitive up and down motions over time, tends to cause, well, it can cause impingements or issues in the shoulder. So if what we can do is really work on pulling back and stabilizing the shoulder, doing rehabilitation exercises and mobility in the shoulder, then we're able to recover a lot better because one, we're in alignment. Two, we've enhanced the synovial fluid within the joint, which is really what lubricates the joint and allows us to move easily. And we're moving in proper form. Because if you are always in improper form, or you don't realize that maybe you're moving in a way that your joint is not meant to, that's repetitive force all the time. You start to get inflammation again, tendinitis, bursitis, all of these issues flare up. So rehabilitative exercises are really important. Also stretching and focusing in on relaxation techniques. So maybe instead of doing a hard workout the next day, you go for a walk where you're enjoying nature. You're out, maybe for a hike, or right now it's warm here for the most part. So a swim, something that is a lot more relaxing, but allowing the blood to flow and the body to move to really get things moving and begin the repair.
Good.
Okay. There were probably a lot there to, cause we're going to come back to, I'm sure, but
yeah, I could go on forever. There's so much to talk about.
Well, I just wanted to ask, so we just talked about how it changes from your 30s to like 40s and 50s, but what kind of change might we see from, say, 40s and 50s to 60s and 70s? Is there a difference there?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes. Also, one thing I didn't mention that we need to talk about is as of your 20s, basically in your 20s, you have the most lean mass you will have if you do not work it. And what I mean by that is for every decade after your mid-20s, you start to lose lean muscle. And so if you're not working that, let's say you are a runner, walker, a swimmer, those are all ways to help enhance lean mass, but you really do need to start weight training. And that accelerates once you've hit that lean mass decline. It accelerates once you hit 65. Protein synthesis, it slows down, and protein degradation. So muscle is protein, that starts to increase. So we're fighting against this. We need to start weight training, and especially over 65, it's never too late. Over 70 even, you need to really start to focus in on enhancing that lean mass. That is in charge of your quality of life, of reducing falls, a big part, reducing falls, helping with balance. And it also helps with strength, contractile force in your muscles. So if you want to be able to lift grocery bags, which on average are like 10 pounds each, you want to lift them out of your car, take them into the house yourself without ever having to ask for help and having that independence, you need to weight train. Also to get up off of the sofa, which it's very nice to get up off the sofa without having to grunt or hold on to things. When I've had those moments when I've been a little bit stiff, I'm like, oh gosh, I really should be doing some more mobility and squats to get more strength in the legs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. We know we need to do more to maintain our muscle mass as we age, particularly in our 60s and 70s and on. But not everybody belongs to a gym or a workout facility. How do you suggest that women can get that kind of full workout without going to a gym?
So you can use your own body weight. That really depends on how your joints are feeling. So a lot of times when you're doing body weight exercises that you hold, which are exercises I suggest, they're known as isometric exercises because you are not moving. You're not lengthening your muscle and contracting it, which is what we do when we move. The muscle is holding in position. This type of, I want to say movement, but it's not because you're not moving. This type of exercise, it actually helps to strengthen around your joints, which is wonderful. However, if your knees, for example, or your joints are already feeling stiff, then holding a position for a long period of time for many actually feels really painful. So that's harder to do. I'm saying if you can hold a position like a squat, and I hope this is okay to say, but think about going to a public washroom. You don't want to sit down on the toilet because it could be very disgusting. But when you hover over it to go to the washroom, you're doing a squat. So you're holding all of your muscles there. And as long as you're not holding on for dear life to the toilet paper roll and you're allowing your legs to do that strength work, you are doing an isometric exercise, an isometric squat. The longer you are there holding that position, the more muscle you recruit. So it's a time under tension technique, which means you recruit more and more lean muscle. So that's one really great way of getting into your muscle without having any equipment, without, going to a gym, literally just hover over your toilet a couple times, or when you have to go to the washroom, or even in your seat, just do a squat and hover there. And that's going to contract the muscles. If it does hurt your muscles, your joints, we need to start lubricating those joints more. So you can do exercises where you sit and stand, and you could actually change the height of your chair, for example, or put books down on a chair so you're up at a higher level. You can be really high, lubricate those joints at that level, and then over time try and take those books away until you're sitting all the way down on your seat and back up. And you can do that 15 times. Do it throughout your day, or if you want to accumulate it together, we do know that volume is going to help enhance lean mass. And with age, we need more volume of exercise. So maybe doing one squat sitting and standing up isn't going to get you the same level of strength as if you can do it 15 times. Or if you can do it 15 times and you do that 4 or 5 times throughout your day. Does that make sense?
I think a lot of us are going to spend more time in the bathroom doing our exercise routine before we come out. And it's like, okay.
So that's holding a squat. So doing a squat itself is not holding a position. I get that you're lubricating your joints and all that, but the holding part is what did you call that? A plyometric?
Isometric.
No, that's an isometric exercise. An isometric.
Like a plank or a wall sit or holding a squat, or I'm trying to think of what are the things you do without, like, I don't know, one hand down and your other hand in the air.
Again, with the grocery bags, what if you're holding 2 grocery bags at your side in those 90-degree angles? When you're in a 90-degree angle, your biceps have to contract, your forearms and your wrists have to be in a flexion contracting, and you're also gripping. And grip strength is another indicator of quality of life. If you can't open your pickle jar, that could be a sign that your grip strength is going. So you really want to be working that grip strength. So just holding on to 2 grocery bags, or, if you're in your house, we have so many things, books that are heavy, boxes that we might need to move.
I have a 40-pound dog food bag that I look at as a major workout when I have to bring one into the house.
That's it. That's perfect. So
Isn't that the truth? Right.
So do you have stairs that you need to go up with the dog food bag?
No, unfortunately I don't.
I do. I have 7 stairs. It's not a full flight, but
that's definitely a workout. And if you decided, I know it would be torturous, but if you went to the top of the stairs, went all the way back down and did that a few times again too, you'd be getting in more than one set of that exercise. Or you could just hold the dog food bag and go to the washroom, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm picturing me with my grip strength holding a 40-pound dog food bag, and I'm not sure that would cut it for me because that's pretty heavy. But
yes,
the grip strength I can relate to because, I sometimes find that some of those caps are impossible to get open, and maybe it's the way the plastic isn't cut or whatever on the water bottle, or I don't know, but definitely I need an improvement on my grip strength. So that's a good idea.
And that's an easy thing to work on because you can just grab anything and squeeze into it, which is another form of exercise you can do without any equipment. If you have a wall, I think everyone has walls, you push against a wall as hard as you can. That force of pushing against the wall, you're not moving at all, but you are pretending that you're trying to move that object. And that's a huge strength creator, especially if you can do it in little powerful jerks, because this is going to be more likely to trigger your type 2 muscle fiber. These are the types of muscle fibers that they go first with age. They're in charge.
The fast twitch? Is that what that is?
Type 2 muscle fibers, yes. So how can you engage them with force and power really quickly? And trying to push a wall that is not going to move. against that. That's as much strength as you can in bursts. That's power. That's going to really try and focus in on those fast twitch muscle fibers that we really want to work. And quite frankly, it's harder with age if you're feeling like you don't want to push yourself as hard all the time, because those are the ones that you do need to push yourself to get into. So heavier strength training, brisker walks. If you can do impact, maybe a little hops or jumps or running or cycling really fast as you can for a little while. That's a lower impact one, but things like that.
And how did you say we could improve our strength or our grip strength?
So if you grab something like a bottle, and even if it's metal, the bottle that I have in my hand is metal, but if it's plastic, you can really squeeze that and try and be like somebody who wants to just, in some TV, they just take a can and it just squeezes. That's what you want to do. You want to squeeze as hard as you can. And again, you can focus in on time. So maybe you can squeeze as hard as you can for all your might, really, really shaking, really focusing in on that for 30 seconds and then relax. And then again, we're looking for volume. So do it again and then relax. You got 30 seconds, work your way up to a minute, do 3 to 5 times on one side and then go to the other side.
Yeah, you have to remember both hands on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really think about working out my hands. And it's kind of crazy because I use my hands all day long, every day. Other than gardening, I think that's a big workout for my hands. But yeah, that's good to know.
And it'll actually help with wrist or with wrist strength, with staving off arthritis in both your wrists and your fingers. So you really want to focus in on that. Another thing people don't think about, since you were talking about hands, people always forget to work out their hands, and then, hand like arthritis in the fingers and the wrist sets in. People don't think about working out their feet, their big toe and the bottom of their feet. And that's actually one of the greatest predictors of falls. If you start to lose big toe strength, and if you start to lose the sensations or sensory receptors in the bottom of your feet, you're more likely to fall. So a test to find out if you have been affected is, can you keep all of your baby toes down and relaxed and lift up only your big toe? And it's very hard at first. Like, you might need to look at your toe and see if all the other toes are moving. You might need to keep the other toes pressed down at first to kind of get that. But your toes should move like your fingers. They should be all separate. And especially for that big toe, if it's not moving separately, you can reduce your risk of falls just by strengthening your big toes.
You do that just by lifting it? And is that actually a strength building thing that you were saying? Yes,
it is a strength building exercise, and it's best for balance. So people think about being on one leg for balance, maybe being on one leg, or, even taking out the eyes, because that's a sensory that we have. But people don't think that how your feet work. Like, your feet are supposed to be completely splayed out and to give you that balance of support, that foundation. And what happens is, over time, they start to weaken. So if that big toe weakens, then you start to lose that center of gravity, that stability. You start to come in. Or if your arches are flat, maybe, if you have plantar fasciitis, that's another, you'll definitely want to test out your big toe strength, because remember, it's all connected. So everything, all of the muscles are all connected in the bottom of your feet. If you're starting to notice you have flat feet, you may notice as well that you're having trouble balancing on one leg, and that's because you're arching in. So one simple thing you can do is start to work your feet and that toe exercise where all of your toes stay flat except for your big toe, and try lifting it up and down.
Wow.
That's one that I haven't thought about doing, but it does kind of make sense because all of your balance originates from your feet.
That's it. And
I remember years ago having problems with my big toe. I don't know. I heard it somehow, but I did yoga. And after about 6 months of heavy duty yoga, I noticed that my feet felt, my big toe wasn't hurting anymore. But it's a good reminder that your toes actually affect how you feel a lot.
And speaking of yoga, what do they always say? Make sure that you feel that pressure under the big toe and the pinky toe, and that you've got your arch supported in the ball of your foot is also like down. You're literally going from each side for support. And that's exactly. So I bet you yoga saved you.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the arches, I know many people have their arches flatten as they get older. But you're saying if we work on our big toe strength, that will help counteract some of that.
Yes, there are exercises you can do as well to help with the arch, and they do stem from your toe as well. You do need to be able to move your big toe. And actually, once you've gotten the big toe, the easier one is moving all the baby toes then separately. But if you take the ball of the front of your foot, the ball of your foot, and you have it on the ground and you try and slide it back while all of your toes are relaxed, that's another exercise that you can do to really start to strengthen the arch. So when I'm working with my clients and I get them to do that, if we're at a stage where they can work out barefoot because they're in their home, they can do that safely. Then what I try and do is get their feet set up so that their arch is held like this, even when they're doing a bicep curl or a row. And I can tell you, because they're not used to that at first, it's like their feet start to cramp because all of the muscles are like, what have you done to me? I'm actually working. What's happening? So that's another way of doing that. You can just take that top of your foot there and slide it back and try and create that arch. But the toes have to be relaxed. And that's the hard part because people want to crunch and scrunch their toes up. You're using your toes instead of the muscles in the bottom of your feet.
Well, so many women, I think, have been kind of a slave to fashion with the pointy-toed shoes, and it pushes your big toe to the far left or right and kind of gets you out of alignment. And I know I've had to fight that, trying to get my toes back to how they should be.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that's, I don't know if you feel a difference in balance as well, but it's almost like it throws you off balance when you're not wearing shoes. You need the shoes to balance a little bit better, or many people do.
Somewhere I read that you have a simple 3-move workout that doesn't need any gym equipment. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, well, I think you guys already touched on it a bit because it is the squats, no movement or moving with the squats. It is the plank, which you guys, spoiler alerted. Thank you.
Sorry.
The plank exercise.
It just made me think of a blank. I don't know.
And it's tricep push-up. So instead of having your arms flared, when you do a push-up and your elbows out, you're keeping them really connected to your sides and really squeezing your shoulder blades back when you are coming down in the motion. The reason I like this is because when I see a lot of people doing push-ups, again, because the shoulder is a floating joint, it's susceptible to so many injuries. And because we're so forward motion, we write forward, we drive forward, we type forward, whatever we're doing is a forward motion. A lot of people get more of a rounded back and the shoulder is out of alignment. And so when asked to lift up that elbow, you're then creating this really misaligned shoulder in many cases. And so there tends to be more injuries or people saying they feel pain in their shoulders from doing a regular push-up. So if you keep your hands just where your shoulder is. For the yogi here, Jill, you will know this because this is where your hands have to be when you're doing like a cobra position or you're coming down in your, like if you're doing a sun salutation and you're sliding down from your plank, that is where you want your hands. Elbows sliding along your sides. It's going to give your shoulder more stability. Plus, because you're squeezing your shoulder blades together, you're working those back muscles that often go stretched because you're forward and underused. So if you start with that one, once you know that your shoulders are in great alignment, you can move on to elbows flared, but keeping them close is just going to make sure you're injury free when you're first doing it.
Okay. Wow. Great. Squat, plank, tricep
push up. That's it. And it will hit your whole body. So when you squat, you are working all of your legs. And if you're doing it bare feet, you get to work your feet too and your toes, but you also have to work your core. Your core, you can't allow your back to roll. You're working your core muscles. You're working the postural muscles in your back as well. And when you do that plank, you can do it on your forearms or on your hands, depending on what your level of exercise knowledge is and strength. And you can also elevate yourself. So if you're into yoga, you can be on the ground and, do it in an advanced way, or you can have yourself on a desk or a filing cabinet. You can have yourself elevated if you're newer to the exercise. And that's going to work everything. Your core again, your chest has to work in order to hold yourself. Your shoulders are stabilizing. your triceps, the back of your arms, everything is working together.
Good. Those are good modifications too for someone who's just starting out too. As you know, our listeners are primarily women over 50. Some of them are just starting out with getting fit and others have been working out for many years. But if we don't have gym equipment, what do you suggest we use to increase our progress and measure the results of our workouts so that we know where we are with our strength training?
So the first thing I'd say is elevation and decline. Those are the two main things. So if you are, what I find is I get a lot of women who are, walking or running or cycling or doing something, but they haven't weight trained yet. And so that's where the difference lies. So you'll probably start on an elevated surface, like we talked about, maybe a filing cabinet or your counter, your kitchen counter. But then what is the next small decline that you can take from that? So does it go from kitchen counter to then maybe the back of a chair that you found that's only an inch or two lower, and slowly start to lower yourself. Once you've gotten to the ground, the next progression would be on your knees for many of these exercises that are like a plank or the push-up. And then you'd go on to the toes. And that would give you an idea of your progression. If you started maybe on the counter and then you end up later on your toes, well, you have made not only a decline all the way down to the ground, but then you've also gone onto your toes using your full body weight. So that's one way of gauging it. Another one is repetition range. So maybe when you start at whatever level you're at, let's say you're on the ground doing, again, a push-up, the tricep push-up, maybe with full range of motion, because range of motion is important. Little mini halves you only get strong in the range of motion you work. That's very important. So I'd rather you were highly elevated and did full range of motion than do 100 on the ground and they're mini little repetitions. But let's say you're on the ground and you do one full repetition of the tricep push-up and you can't do any more. Well, then great. Your goal is to eventually get to 6 and then 12 and then 15.
Okay. So just progress through the different stages and then start doing more.
That's right, because we want volume, right? That's also very important. It really depends where you're starting from. The main women that I help have not been weight training like that. Like I've explained, they might be doing other forms of exercise, but weight training, they're just getting the foundation. So either they have never weight trained or they haven't weight trained in years and years. And so they're starting from a foundation. Some of them do one repetition of each of the exercise with great form, full range of motion. And they're like, I am done. And that is great. That's your starting point. Some people can get through one set of 15. So if you can get to 15 reps, let's say, that's a great muscular endurance starting point. And strength means that whatever you're doing is harder. And so it's more of a 12 repetition range. Does that make sense? So your repetitions go down as the amount that you lift or that you're carrying on, or the level that you're doing is harder. We spoke a little bit of it in a different way when we were going before, because if you're at the kitchen counter and you can only do one, you have to get to 12 before you get to 15. So you're going to be getting to 12 and then eventually 15, but the repetition ranges kind of mean different things. So maybe you can do one set of 15 and you can't do any more, but over time, maybe you can do 3 sets of 15 repetitions. So repetition ranges change and sets change. And I really hope I'm not mixing everyone up with all of this information.
So you've mentioned now other kinds of exercise, and I'm assuming that's sort of like the cardio thing. Like you've said something about running and walking, swimming, bicycling. I mean, I've heard you mention those. So what kind of cardio should we be doing? And does that change anything as we age?
Well, everybody should be doing this type of cardio, no matter what type of age. But as we get older, it becomes more important to do a type of cardio that is going to really work on what is known as your VO2 max. So the volume of oxygen that you can take in and use in your body. And to do that, you need a high heart rate So it's usually high intensity interval training that is really going to maximize the ability to use your lungs, which then enhances your quality of life. So they've done a lot of studies that demonstrate that the volume of your VO2 max is connected to your quality of life, your energy levels, your ability to also use blood sugar and have stable blood sugar. It is an all-around must have. The thing is that it does decline with age, and you really have to work it in order to maintain or really push to not have a lower VO2 max as low with age, if that makes sense. So you might have a little bit of a decline. We all do as we age. We all have a decline. The great news is though, unless you're a professional athlete, you're not really going to notice that decline, because you have never worked at your full lung capacity, probably to that degree ever. I know I haven't. I'm in fitness. I love fitness, but I did not do my whole life sprinting and, trying to be a decathlete or an Olympic athlete. That's not my level. So I've never hit my max. So no matter what you do, you're probably going to improve your VO2 max because you were never at the highest level to begin with. And that drop can be less significant for you, but you do have to work it. And that means you need to get the heart rate into those zones to work it. But it doesn't need to take a long time. It can take anywhere from 3 minutes to 5 minutes of your day. And some people do 10 minutes, but you do have to work it. You need to be really out of breath when you're doing it.
I know you said high intensity interval training. So that could be sprints on your bike.
Yes.
It could be you're sort of jogging along and then you run really fast for a short period of time. So do that in intervals.
Yes, it can be finding a hill. And, so some of my clients have a lot of joint issues. I do suggest the bike or swimming laps. But it can be as easy for some as power walking up a hill. So, it really depends on your capabilities and what you're able to do. In a way that's joint friendly, it is cycling. A lot of the studies are actually done on people that are cycling as their main way of getting their VO2 max, because they want it to be accessible for all. And they don't want the people to say, oh, well, I can't because my knees hurt, because that's an easy one to be able to do. But again, it depends on your level, because let's say you're brand new and you haven't done any cardio in a long time. Maybe you've gone for walks and that's your main thing, or some swimming, but you're not doing heavy laps. Then maybe going up a flight of stairs has gotten you really out of breath. So let's say you're running for that train or the bus and you've got to get there really fast. You run up the stairs, you're really out of breath at the end of that, but you still have to run to get onto that bus. That is you doing high intensity interval training. So for example, those that are outpatients depending on what type of surgery you've had for cardiac surgery, some medical doctors get their patients to walk from chair 1 to chair 2. That's all they have to do. And that little bit gets them completely out of breath and their heart pounding just from walking from chair 1 to chair 2. And that is them doing high intensity interval training. So I guess my question for everyone who is listening is, are you out of breath, or are you able to talk when you're doing your cardio? If you don't have moments where you literally have to stop the conversation and you are panting and out of breath, then you're probably not in your high intensity interval training zone.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And how often should we be doing that?
So if the standard is to do 150 minutes of moderate activity, think of this being vigorous activity. And that's about 75 minutes a week of vigorous activity. However, studies have started to come out that are showing that if you were to do just, again, 3 minutes of that a couple of times a week, 3 minutes of all out intensity for all 3 minutes, then you would have the same benefit as doing the 75 minutes of the vigorous activity throughout the week. So I think it really depends on your time and what you're willing to push yourself for. I have clients that can do that 3 minutes, and I have clients that said, no way in heck, that feels absolutely disgusting to push myself to that level. I'd rather separate things out and do small intervals in between, or, mix it into my day.
If we were going to focus on cardio or focus on strength training, what should we focus on first? Getting our cardio in or doing a strength workout?
What do you dislike doing the most? Because if you dislike doing weight training the most, I suggest you do weight training first, get it out of the way, and then do your cardio, because let's face it, you're probably going to do it anyways. So that's my suggestion. Personally, because I understand how quickly our lean mass declines with age, I would prefer people start with weight training. And then like I mentioned before, usually people go for a walk, which is still beneficial. It increases dopamine levels, enhances serotonin. It's good for your heart. It stabilizes blood sugar. Just a 10-minute walk after a meal can bring your blood sugar back to balance again. So you're still getting benefit. It's not enhancing VO2 max to the same level, but it's still a form of cardio or exercise. Most people are more inclined to do that than they are to go and lift weights or squat over toilets or, whatever the case may be. So that's why I suggest you do the weight training. Focus on that.
And I guess you just sort of answered this. I was going to ask you, how much time per day or per week should we be working out?
Well, so when you're talking about weight training too, again, we talked about what level you're at. So if you're just starting out and you can only do like one set of each exercise, so you can do squats. Let's say you're doing 15 squats and then your 15 push-ups and then your 30 seconds of plank, because it's a hold for that one, let's say. If that's all you can do, congratulations. You just did your workout. Go about your day and do your cardio or walk or do whatever else you want. As you progress and you become more conditioned, you are going to need more sets. So it's going to take more sets of that, or you're going to have to push yourself harder with your cardio levels. But the cardio for HIIT, it really, again, you could do it in 3 minutes if you can push yourself for 3 full minutes. I would like to say though, you should warm up before you do that 3 minutes, because that's another thing that changes with age. We need to make sure the blood is flowing, the muscles are supple. We do not want to tear anything, and we want to be ready for exercise. So doing a 5 to 10 minute warm up, then your 3 minutes, and then a 5 to 10 minute cool down. So really it's not as easy as 3 minutes, but give yourself 13 minutes and you're good to go.
And with women over 50, do you suggest that they work out every day, or do cardio certain days, strength training certain days? What kind of a schedule do you put people on?
So again, I think that depends on where you're at and how conditioned you are. Usually you want to keep it with weight training 2 to 3 times a week is great. And for your cardio, again, it depends on the intensity, your ability to recover. I know we didn't get into it too much, but there are a lot of factors that also reduce recovery rate. Like if you're still in the workforce and you have a very stressful job, you're dealing with high cortisol. I mean, that's definitely going to affect inflammation and recovery rates and a whole bunch of other things that we didn't get a chance to get into today. But it really depends on you. So what I usually suggest is start with 2 to 3 days of weight training. If you're very starting at exercise, if you've already been running or walking, just try and swap out 2 to 3 of those days of running or walking for your weight training. And you've got a little bit of everything if you want to do something every day. And again, just to remember to add in rehabilitation exercises and stretching. And stretching you can do every day if you want to. And with certain rehabilitation exercises, you can also do those every day if you want to.
Rehabilitation exercises, what are those, or how would we figure out how do we figure out what those are?
Okay, so I spoke about the shoulder today. So if it really depends on if you're doing zero equipment or whether you have equipment, what you're doing. But it's exercises that are ensuring that you are working. It really depends on what. So for your knee, for example, a rehabilitation exercise could be as easy as you sitting on the edge of your seat and extending your legs out and holding them up there, making sure that the muscles in the front of your leg are contracted. And then you bend your knees as you're seated fully on. Actually, you know what? I have a video that talks about ab training and leg strength, like while you're sitting down. Those exercises I use are rehabilitative in that. So I can actually share that video with you if you want to have
that'd be
video.
Great.
Yeah. And I think
we'll link that in the show notes. Good.
Yeah. So it's about creating full range of motion exercises that are going to make sure that you are stabilizing your joints and that you're using your body into its full capacity. So the toe exercise, that's rehabilitative as well. The shoulder exercise where we spoke about, where you're rolling your shoulders back. If you were to do, I call them friendly waiters. It's a Pilates move where you're bringing your arms out to the side, but your elbows are connected to your side. If you're lying on your side, that's known as an external rotation for your shoulder, and it aligns your shoulder. So I might have a few videos on those so I can share. It really depends on what part of the body you're working.
All right. That'd be great.
Thank you.
When women come to you saying they want to lose weight, what advice do you give them? And what should we be focusing on if that's our concern?
Okay. So again, for me, it's all about weight training. Lean mass is in charge of boosting your metabolic rate as well as the strength and quality of life that we've spoken about. But when you go for a walk, yes, you burn calories, but then pretty shortly after you've gone for your walk, you don't really burn any more calories. Whereas when you do a weight training workout, you enhance lean mass. And so even while you're sitting, you're reading, you're gardening, you're watching TV, whatever you're doing, you're still burning more calories because lean mass is incredibly metabolic. It needs a lot of energy to sustain its size and strength. And so your body needs to burn more fuel in order to sustain your lean muscle. So it's about weight training, and it's also about ensuring that you're getting in enough protein, because like we spoke about, protein synthesis, it declines, and protein degradation, it increases. So you're also adding to that by breaking down your muscle, which needs more protein, right? In order to create its strength. So you need to make sure that you're hitting your protein levels, especially when you're working out, but also if you want to lose weight. And that does not mean that you cut out carbs. And it does not mean that you only eat fats. It's really important that you have the proper amount of carbohydrates as well. They're high in fiber. If you're doing whole food carbohydrates, not refined carbohydrates, high in fiber is going to help you feel full longer if the goal is weight loss. But also from a perspective, especially for us women, what it does is it pulls out the free floating estrogen in our body through it takes it out through waste. And that's really important because that type of free floating estrogen, it's known as estrone. That's what's more linked to breast cancer or health concerns. So we want to get rid of that estrogen and get to a new balance of the healthy estrogen. And
we do that by having fiber.
High fiber that's going to help pull it all out in your poop.
Okay.
We've been speaking a lot about bathrooms today, I think.
Yeah. Well, gut health is important.
It is. Yes, yeah.
Sometimes trying to make choices about healthy eating can be overwhelming. But in your opinion, what are the 3 foods that we really want to include in our diet? I think you've narrowed things down that we really have 3 that we want to keep in our diets. What would those be?
A protein, I'll say, and I hate giving an exact food because I think we're all so different in what we like.
Sure.
If I were to say have salmon and you're like, I hate fish. I have some clients that absolutely hate fish. You're going to be really sad that you are now not able to eat that food or don't want to.
Yeah. I should have reworded that to say what types. Yeah.
Yeah. So, lean protein, if you can, or plant-based protein through beans and legumes. And if you are plant-based, well, guess what? Your protein sources are really high in fiber. Like if you're doing beans or legumes, they're the highest fiber foods. So that's another food I would say, if you can and you like it, beans or legumes, because they are so high fiber and they've got the protein in it as well. They're also something I always get people that are so afraid of carbohydrates. And I do want to say that with age, the carbohydrate metabolism does shift. That is something that shifts. But it doesn't mean that you stop eating carbs and, you're going to lose all the weight and feel really healthy. We need the healthy carbs for that fiber. So I'll say beans and legumes, and I'd say healthy fats. I'll go with the omega-3s. So flax seeds. If you like it, you get your protein and your fats if you like salmon. So salmon as well. Avocados are also great. Just in general, avocados for the polyunsaturated fats. Yeah. Chia seeds, hemp seeds, all the healthy fats.
Right.
Obviously, everyone has things they like and dislike, but when someone comes to you, what do you tell your clients about how they should eat? Like, what recommendations would you give us?
So I actually have a YouTube video on this too, if you want. I discuss how macronutrients shift with age. So we talked about protein. That's more dependent on your age and your activity level. So if you're 50 to 65, your protein level is going to be lower than somebody that's 65 plus. And we touched on that a bit because you have this acceleration of lean mass degradation when you're old, but once you've hit 65, that accelerates even more. So you got to fight back with that. So your protein levels are going to shift depending on your age and activity level. Your fat percentage, it also depends on health concerns. So if you have a higher risk within your family of breast cancer, for example, even though it's healthy fats, you may want to lower your fat content because there are studies that tend to show that a higher fat content, if you have a predisposition to breast cancer, may potentially give you a greater risk of breast cancer. So you would want to lower your fat content. If you have heart disease, it really depends. So it really depends on a whole bunch of factors that are related to your health, your hormones, your energy level, your stress levels, and what's going on with you. Yeah. So I can't give an exact, but I can share that YouTube if you want, and then you can kind of calculate your own macros.
That would be good. So do I understand that if you're in the 50 to 65 range, your protein needs are greater than when you were younger?
Yes.
Okay. Your protein needs are going to increase as you age.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And is part of that how your body metabolizes it?
Yes. So, so protein synthesis is like using all of those amino acids or the proteins within our body and then creating things with it. So creating muscle, for example, or, hormones, cells, that sort of thing. So that shifts with age. So you could inundate your body with a lot of protein. And instead of when you were in your 20s, your body said, there's all this protein, suck it all up and we're going to use it. Your body says, I don't feel like sucking it all up today. So make sure there's a lot there for the amount that I can intake for that moment, for example. And this is really general. Obviously, it's not science for me to put it in this way, but that's the general idea that we no longer have this synthesis to the same way. We can't use what is given to us the same way. And so you need to really bombard the body in order to be able to use as much as you possibly can. And at the same time, because we break down muscle, which is our protein, at a faster rate, it's like, okay, keep on going, keep on filling the hole, keep on making sure that we have enough protein so that degradation, it doesn't allow, it stints that degradation, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yes. Do you have any tricks to getting more protein into our meals?
Oh, I have so many.
Tricks maybe isn't the right word, but any suggestions?
Yes. So it really depends on what you like again, but I say get adventurous. So one thing that I like to do is get soft tofu and basically stick it in everything that you can blend. Sauces, for example, there's a great spaghetti sauce. Just put in a whole thing of the soft tofu. You can't even taste it. And I know this because my mother used to trick me with that spaghetti sauce for me to get healthier things in there. And I still use that to this day. You can put it in smoothies as well. And it's a more natural source than you getting in a protein powder. Like if you have to do protein powder to get there, then by all means use it. But if you were to use the tofu, it's incredibly high in protein. Plus it has the phytoestrogens, which again is going to help balance our estrogen levels within our body, the healthy estrogen. So I'd say stick tofu in things that you can't tell. It's all about tricking yourself if it's for taste. It's all about looking at your plate and saying, what's one swap out I can make? So for example, if you were to swap out, let's say you're having a baked potato and you really want to have some butter and sour cream. If you were to get a Skyr yogurt, for example, Skyr yogurt or Greek yogurt as well, if it's sugar-free, it's really high in protein. You're probably looking at about 20 grams of protein, depending on the type of, what the label, the brand of it is. But in general, you could get 20 grams of protein. And think about it this way. Try and get 20 to 30 grams of protein in per your big meals. That's kind of an idea of where you may need to be at for your protein levels. So if, for example, you've got 20 grams just from adding it to your baked potato, well, then you're pretty close to being there.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
That tofu in the spaghetti sauce, do you use a blender for that, or do you just mush it up? And
I blend it. I blend it, and you can't even tell it's in there. Blend
That's
it in with the tomatoes, and
I love that.
It actually makes it look almost like a rosé. So people are like, "Oh wow, you added cream to this. That's wonderful." You're like, "Yeah,
yeah,"
or like a ricotta or something. Yeah, got it.
Where else might you add that?
I have a recipe for an excellent Caesar salad dressing that's made of tofu as well.
Really?
It is. Yes, I can. It's not my recipe. Actually, it was my sister-in-law who fooled me with it. And we were at this picnic, and of course, you're always trying to say, okay, well, what's the best option that I can eat here? And so she pulled me aside. She said, it's not really made with cream. And all of the things that are in Caesar salad dressing, it's made with tofu. And I lost it. It was so good. I still use that recipe to this day. And it's very high in protein. It does have cheese in it. So if you're lactose intolerant, you might not like it, but it has Parmesan cheese, tofu, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, mustard. There might be some lemon in that as well. And if you want, you can put anchovy paste in it, blend it all up. It's soft, it's smooth, and at least when she makes it, more than when I make it, it tastes like you're really eating Caesar salad. It's delicious.
That's great.
I think it's all about getting as adventurous as you can. So even if it's, let's say you have a sweet tooth and you're going to eat sweets, how can you add a protein source or reduce the sugar a little bit and add more deliciousness to it in a healthier way? So I love black bean brownies as well. They're so good, high fiber. I have the plant stevia, so I don't need to buy a sweetener and wonder if there's chemicals in it or if it's going to affect my digestion. If you're a gardener, and Chris, you were mentioning you're a gardener, do you have stevia plants?
We have. I don't think we have any this year, but we usually grow it. Yeah.
Well, it's such a natural way of having your own sweetener. It's zero sugar.
Right.
You can add it into baked goods and you get the black beans for the fiber and protein and you're good to go.
Great idea.
Good food swaps. Yeah. I love that.
So you've talked about that you're going to share some videos with us, but where can our listeners find you online?
Yes. Okay. So, since we've talked so much about YouTube, I can share my YouTube channel with you. Also, AliciaJonesHealthyLiving.com. That's my website. You can also visit me on Facebook. And I do have Instagram as well, but I'm mostly on Facebook.
Okay. Under your name, not...
I think it's Facebook, Alicia Jones, Healthy Living. Yes. Yeah. I can share those links with you as well.
Yeah. We'll make sure those are in the show notes. And boy, it's been great talking with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me. I've had a lot of fun.
Between my feet and the tofu, I feel like if I learn nothing else, I'm a winner today.
Yeah, lots of good ideas. Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Alicia sure has some good ideas. I loved what she had to say about those rehab exercises. And at first I wasn't sure what she was talking about, but when she discussed about having your big toe move separately than your smaller toes, I really tried that and it's difficult for me. So I think that's something I'm going to add to my exercises. It seems like a little thing, but also such a big deal since balance on your feet and your toes is so important.
I just tried that and wow, it's harder than you would think. But I also really liked the squeezing a bottle, the hand exercise. That's very easy to do. I mean, easy to start doing. I don't mean that it's easy to squeeze as hard as you can, but I really am aware of how important grip strength is and also preventing arthritis. That's an issue for many of us. So if squeezing the water bottle several times a day, it helps, I'm all for it.
Yeah, definitely. And the body weight exercises, the isometric exercises with planks and wall sits and squats and things like that. It's an easier way to get started with something and a way to just fit in something when you can, when you have some time, when you're waiting for something to cook on the stove or in the microwave or what have you. It's just easy to get some extra exercise in.
Yeah. And her talk about doing it, like if you're going to do a push-up against the counter, that it's better to do 10, or it's better to do them well with full range of motion on using the counter than to hurry up and get down to the floor and then only be able to do a partial range of motion. That was a really good point.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of good things in there. I remember her talking about elevation and decline. That's something that having good form, especially as we get older, makes such a huge difference in improving your fitness levels.
I'm curious too. I'm going to look at the shoulder things, the rehabilitation exercises for your shoulder. I thought that was interesting.
Right. And I really like those recipes she shared. I love tofu, and she had some great suggestions. And I just have to share, I never thought that I would say I love tofu. So I have a secret on how I learned to love it. And it has to do with what I used to dip chips in, which was French onion dip. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I love French onion dip.
I love French onion dip.
I could eat a vat of that.
Well, that's how I learned to love tofu. I would take some tofu and I'd take the French onion dip and I'd kind of mix together in a bowl, some of each. And the French onion dip, man, just takes over. And I just put a little bit of tofu and a lot of French onion dip. And then I, kept doing it each day with more tofu, less French onion, less, because it wasn't really the texture that bothered me. At first, I thought that's what it was, but I thought, hey, you like oatmeal, you like, custard, you like pudding, Anyway, I did that. Gosh, it's got to be 10, 12 years ago now. And honestly, I eat tofu plain. I will put it on my salads or just eat it plain. And I know it's really good if you saute it a little bit with some soy sauce or whatever sauce you like. I mean, that really is the trick, to add something you like to it, because it takes on all that same flavor. It's really good.
When you say you eat it plain, do you heat it? Do you just chop it up and throw it on your salad?
Well, sometimes, I hate to say it, but right out of the container, like eat a couple chunks of it. It's good. I mean, when you like it, you like it. And
okay.
I never, ever thought I would like it. I remember one of my friends who was a little bit older than me telling me that this is the best thing. It's 9 grams of protein in one of those packs, depending on which kind you get and all of that, but 4.5 servings. I just cut it into quarters and I eat a quarter at a time. So it's probably more, I don't know if I'm not doing the math right, but it's a little more than 9 grams for each serving for me. Boy, to add another 10, 12 grams of protein to your meal, it really helps, especially, if you're trying to cut down on egg yolks or what have you that has a lot of protein and it's great for breakfast.
I loved the idea of throwing in the soft tofu into your tomato sauce.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would definitely work. You'd never even know it was there.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's interesting that our need for protein goes up as we age.
Right.
I mean, even as you get post 65, I think was the year she said. And I guess I sort of knew that, but it was good to hear it actually stated because I hadn't really thought about it in that way.
If your body doesn't metabolize protein like it used to, you're not holding on to your muscles as much. And if you're working out and doing strength training, you're breaking down your muscles. They have to rebuild. That's another reason to do more protein. We want to keep our muscles because that's what protects our body when we fall.
Right. Yeah. And our joints and our bones.
Right. All of that.
Yep.
All of that. Anyway, I wanted to remind our listeners, don't forget to check those show notes for all the links to the videos Alicia mentioned. She really gave us some wonderful resources.
Yes. Her website and her YouTube channel they both have a lot of information.
Yeah. Yeah. Alicia Jones, Healthy Living. And let Jill and me know if you have some thoughts on what she had to say or how you're doing on being fit and strong, like Ellie.
Yes. And if you have any other ideas about using tofu, let us know that too.
Yeah.
You can leave us a message at becomingellie.com, or you can find us as Becoming Ellie on Facebook, Instagram, X, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
And if you don't already belong, be sure to join our private Facebook group, Becoming Ellie.
Yes, it would be great to have you join us.
Well, it was wonderful talking with you today, Jill. I'm looking forward to our next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
I am too. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.